Chapter 1. It was waiting to happen. I knew my older son was a brat and always up to mischief, and it was only a matter of time he got into serious trouble. With my business, which kept me busy most of the time, I could not spend much time at home as I would have liked. My two sons grew up with nannies and maids pretty much. As a single mother and an ambitious career woman, I had made the choice and I held myself responsible. As I walked into their school, I went over a number of things Rahul could have done. I would apologize profusely, ground him for months, do anything possible to keep him from being suspended. However, it was worse. He and his bunch of hooligan friends had been caught drinking alcohol in class and in possession of marijuana. The school was doing a favor for me by not calling the police. Rahul was expelled. He was 15 years old. With no signs of maturity, whether in his demeanor or his looks. He looked like a mini version of me, his voice hadn't broken and didn't not have the ability to grow facial hair yet. Maybe he was rebellious because of these reasons? No, he was just a brat. We were rich and he was a rich, spoilt brat, the worst kind. As we drove home, I had made up my mind. We need to make a huge change in discipline. Rahul was 1 year away from his board examinations. He was no longer allowed to leave home till his examination. Which meant that for 1 year, he would be stuck at home and give the examination as a private candidate. This allowed me to keep him away from his hooligan friends and also make sure that he could focus on his studies. While our massive 2-storied bungalow with a lawn didn't make it that bad, but Rahul was rebellious. If I don't go out for a year, how will I even have a haircut? He said defiantly, thinking he had got me. We shall see about that, I replied angrily, without raising my voice. For now, you just concentrate on your studies. The company will not pass on automatically to you. You will have to earn it, and if I don't think you are able, I may pass it on to your brother, or maybe I will sell it. He sulked away. Once Rohan, my younger son, came home, he was quickly told about the arrangement. Rohan was 14 years old, a year younger and probably as different from Rahul as chalk is to cheese. He had taken after his father. He was much taller than Rahul, who at 5.5 feet was just about my height. He was broad and well-built while Rahul was thick and petite. Rohan was also a good student, was mature and had a quiet strength about him. If I had not given birth to both, I would think one was adopted. Chapter 2. The year passed quickly. My business was growing and we were doing well. It kept me busy and I traveled across India and overseas. I trusted our maid, who was more of a family member, having been with us for over 15 years, to take care of the kids while I was away at work. Over the weekends, I would see Rahul trying to study, but I had a sinking feeling he wasn't doing anything close to his best. He didn't cut his hair during this time and it kept growing. As I had feared, he didn't pass the examinations. I was furious. I did not know what to do with the boy. "What's the matter with you?" I shouted. "First you get expelled. Now you fail your board exams." He just looked away defiantly. "I have called a lady from my salon home. Let me get done with her and then we shall talk again," I told him while I walked away. As I saw him from behind, an idea came to me. "Rahul, come here. You haven't had a haircut in ages now. Let the lady give you a haircut." "Sure," he said indifferently. While I was getting my hair and nails done, I told Rose, my salon lady, what I wanted her to do. She giggled. Once Rahul's turn came, Rose washed his hair and then started trimming. "You have such nice and thick hair. You should not cut it short, Rose told Rahul with a smile. Rahul just shrugged. He was such a brat. As I had discussed with Rose, she proceeded to give him a very feminine pageboy bob. Once it was done, Rahul screamed, "What have you done?" Rahul, you will keep your hair like this, unless you want me to call your friends and send them pictures of you with this hair, I warned. Mom. This is a girl's haircut. What's the matter with you? He screamed. I know. Now live with it, I said softly. Rohan came home and tried to hide his laughter seeing Rohan. I took him aside and told him that this was Rahul's punishment and not to create a big fuss. Rahul will cut his hair next year in a boy's hairdo only if he passes the exam next year. This year he is only going to stay in a study, I announced. I need exercise. I am getting fat sitting at home, Rahul complained. Let me think of something, I said dismissively. I enrolled him in an Indian classical dance class. He was to go 4 times a week for 2 hours a day. He refused, saying he would not let people see him with this hairdo. I agreed that it would be too much for him, so I went shopping. Bought him a few skirts, tops, dresses, salwar kameez. He was to wear the salwar kameez for his dance classes. He could protest, but I had the upper hand. I will doll you up, I announced. I called Rose home again and asked her to thread his eyebrows, wax his arms and legs and pierce his ears. While she was doing his eyebrows, I could see a year fall from his eyes. I felt terrible doing this to him, but it was my decision and I thought I was doing the right thing for him. Rohan came home that day and saw his brother dressed in a white baby doll top and capris with a thin brown and silver Alice hairband over his hair. He couldn't control himself and started laughing. Mom! What have you done to Rahul Bhaiya? He exclaimed. Rahul hung his head while sitting at the table having a snack. No more Rahul Bhaiya. Till the time he passes his examinations, she is Riddhi Didi to you and just Riddhi to me, I said smiling. I saw another small tear fall from Rahul's eyes and I turned away. I had to be strong. Chapter 3. Over the months, I saw Rahul's demeanor change. He became more submissive, maybe the shame had gotten to him. Him dancing had changed his posture and mannerisms, and perhaps hanging out with only girls all the time at his dance classes, the only outside company he had imbibed some of their habits and mannerisms in him. Over time his hair grew longer and I saw his hand movements change and become more feminine. He walked with a slight wiggle to his back, which was distinctly feminine. Once I got back home from work and saw him sitting on the couch with his knees under him and his chin resting on his fingers, wearing a blue summer dress with his hair in a high pony. He looked so pretty. Who did your hair like that? I asked, surprised. It was falling all over my face and I saw one of the girls in my class wearing her hair like that and she looked like super pretty, so I tried it too, he replied. I didn't say anything, but I was beginning to question my decision. He looked too pretty. Rahul's behavior was a marked improvement. He became more polite, docile, and I saw him studying more. I was hoping he would pass this time. And he did. He rushed into the room and hugged me and I hugged him back. It's time to go on a holiday to celebrate, I said happily. Yay, Rahul giggled. I was hoping I would have my son back soon. Let's go to Goa, I suggested. Both my boys agreed. Riddhi, you will turn back to Rahul after we come back from the holiday. Not before, I decided. Mom. Come on. Our deal was till I pass my exams, Rahul objected and put his palm on his chest. I saw this distinct feminine gesture and wondered, but my mind was made up. No. But I will take you shopping before we go on the trip, I offered. Rivi just looked down. Chapter 4. We jumped into our Audi SUV and drove to Goa. Rivi sat in the back seat, wearing a lined dress, with his hair covered in a scarf and his eyes in large round sunglasses. I made sure he wore some makeup, just in case. I didn't have to worry, he looked gorgeous. He had taken after me. I checked into a massive suite. I needed this break, I thought. The boys were in a separate suite. Once we checked in, I knocked on their door. Rohan opened and I walked in. Rivi, do you want to go to the salon with me? I am going. Need cleaning up? I asked. Rahul looked shocked, as did Rohan. Mom, come on. Look, your brows aren't done. You need to trim the ends of your hair and look at your arms. I said. I am your son, not your daughter, Rahul said, looking hurt. Not this week. Look at you anyways. Follow me. Once we are back in Mumbai, you can go back to being Rahul, I said, turning away. At the salon, I got my hair done along with my brows and a facial. I told them to use their imagination with Rahul, and once they were done, his hair was parted in the middle with long layers in front framing his face. The layers went to his base of his neck in front and was cut in a round end at the back. It was such a feminine do that there was no hiding from it. And he looked gorgeous. His brows were done in a beautiful arch which brought out his eyes. His nails were done in rounded French tips. The facial had made his face glow. My daughter was the most beautiful girl in the salon. When we came back to the rooms, Rohan just started. He went and hugged Rivi and said she looked beautiful. Rivi started sobbing. I told Rohan to give us some time alone and he left. I hugged Rivi and she hugged me back. We didn't say a word. Chapter 5. Next evening, we had invite to a party at the hotel ballroom. I told Rivi to wear her LBD. I did her face with evening makeup. Her large doe-like eyes looked beautiful with the heavy mascara and her lips were made up in scarlet lip gloss. She wore silver chandelier earring, a silver neck piece and silver kitten heels. Her little black sleeveless skater dress showed off her frail shoulders and arms. I pulled one side of her hair with a long hair ornament shaped like a leaf. I gave her a clutch to carry. She looked like she was 24 years old. I have kept some makeup in the clutch in case you need to touch up. I have also kept a jaw grip in case you need to tie your hair back, I told Rivi. She smiled and said, Mom, I will be your daughter this vacation. But don't forget our deal once we are back home. But I really enjoy having a daughter, I said, meaning it. Well, I am not a girl really, you know. Unluckily, I know that I am really pretty when I dress up, Rivi said sassily. He was such a girl. Well, not only when you dress up. You are beautiful anyways, I smiled and said. Rivi giggled and put his hands on his hips and posed in front of the mirror. She pouted, touched his hair, while we took selfies. I loved this girl. She reminded me of me at that age. Rohan walked in after we girls were done dressing and he looked so smart in his black shirt and suit. You look beautiful, Rivi Didi. He smiled and said. Rivi walked up to him and gave him a light peck on the cheeks. Careful. Watch the lip color, I warned. Rohan walked out with two gorgeous women in each arm and off we went to the party. End of Part 1. Chapter 1. This chapter is told from Rahul's perspective as I held my brother's arm and walked towards the party's venue. I couldn't help but notice my French tipped nails. Here I was, a 17-year-old boy, dressed like a girl and looking gorgeous at that, and heading to a party with my brother and my mother in Goa. The last 2 years were the worst of my life. I had lost my dignity, freedom, and I did not know what direction my life was taking. The only fun I had during this time were my Indian classical dance classes. While learning to dance, a very feminine form of dance, Bharatanatyam, was not every boy's idea of fun, but it was the only time I had out of the house. I picked it up quickly, and over the year, I had become quite good at it. Made friends with some of the other girls at class, although I wasn't allowed to go out with them later on, which I didn't mind, since I was very conscious of my outfits, which were always feminine. They, of course, thought of me as a girl and welcomed me easily. As we reached the venue, I realized it was quite the event. The indoor section was the ballroom and the outdoor section was poolside. I needed some alcohol to get through this evening, but legally my brother and I couldn't drink, although tonight I looked like a 24-year-old woman and my brother, with his height and build, always looked older than he was. We went over to a bunch of teenagers and got talking. I saw Mom start a conversation with a group of women. I just needed someone to get me a drink. We were standing next to the pool talking to the group, most of who looked to be around the same age group. I could feel my translucent bra strap dig into my shoulder and feel the hooks at the back. I tucked my hair behind my ear and to look around when this guy looked at me and said, "So you are the silent kinds, aren't you? Like a drink?" He was tall, my brother's height, with a beaming smile. "Thank you. I really need a drink," I said, smiling. He passed me a glass of what seemed like vodka and Red Bull. So he was old enough to legally get a drink from the bar. Soon, we were all down with a few and were dancing. I noticed my brother with a pretty girl who looked a bit older to him. Such a stud, I thought. Hope he gets action. I felt a tap on my shoulder and turned around. My new friend was smiling and trying to dance awkwardly. He introduced himself and I gulped. His name was Rahul. I barely stopped myself from responding with a "me too." "I'm Rithi," I said, offering my hand with a smile. He took it and twirled me around and said, "That's a really nice name." Gosh, I was dancing with a guy who I think is flirting with me. Chapter 2. This chapter is told from Rahul's mother's perspective. The party was great. I was drinking some good wine, met some classy people and was enjoying myself. I saw Rohan dancing with a really pretty girl wearing a short dress and smiled. My younger one was growing up. I couldn't spot Rahul. Wonder where he was. I excused myself and took a look around. I didn't need to, B was 17. Nonetheless, the circumstances were different now with him. I passed the pool area and walked into a garden. Noticed a couple kissing and smiled. The young and lucky. Suddenly I realized. Gosh! That's Rahul. He noticed me too and got up abruptly and ran. He even ran like a girl now. The boy tried to run after him, but before he could, I nearly broke my land speed record and reached him. "Leave my daughter alone," I said as sternly as I could. He looked shocked. Blubbered something and left. I didn't think Rithi was in a mood for any more partying and I guessed right. I found him in my room. "Mom, can I sleep in your room tonight?" I can't face Rohan today, she was crying. I hugged her and nodded. "Mom, I kissed a boy." "A boy," she said and wept. "It's okay, sweetie." "It's okay," I failed at reassuring. "Let's go back home," she suggested tearfully. I agreed. On the way back, I noticed Rithi subconsciously braiding his hair and then unbraiding it over and over again, having moved his hair in front of his shoulders. She didn't say a word. Rohan was being really mature and didn't ask anything. Rithi's feminine action of braiding his hair continuously wasn't lost on Rohan. "Mom, what is happening to him?" Rohan whispered to me. I wasn't sure myself, so I didn't reply. I reached home at night. The kids went straight to their rooms. I changed and walked over to Rithi's room. He was sitting at his dresser looking blank. He was again braiding his hair loosely and unbraiding it. He had changed to a pair of pink PJs. "Rithi, may I come in, sweetie?" I asked as I entered. He nodded. "You want to talk?" I asked hopefully. "No," came the reply. "Sure. Come tomorrow, you can go back to being Rahul," I offered. He nodded. Today wasn't a good time. Next morning, I received an invite from the dance school at Rithi had signed up for, inviting us for the annual dance show. I was sure Rahul wouldn't agree anymore. I didn't want to force as well. Still, I asked him. Would seem like a waste that I learned to dance and so well that too and I don't participate in the show, wouldn't it? He asked. I agreed. That would mean that you would have to remain as Rithi for another week. That's fine. After what happened in Goa, I don't think this is that bad, he said with a smirk. I have a sad smile at him and hugged him. This wasn't the time to ask him if he enjoyed the kiss or not. Chapter 3. This chapter is told from the perspective of Rohan, Rahul's brother. I always thought Rahul Bhaiya was cool. He had cool friends, wore his hair stylishly and was anti-establishment. I was the nerdy, quiet one. The last 2 years had changed our equation completely. He was now this beautiful sister I had, who I loved as my sister. I was hard not to. She was a beautiful girl, as graceful and feminine, and made me awesome sandwiches when I came back from a game of tennis. I hoped, for his sake, Mom would allow him to become Rahul again. I was walking into the concert hall with Mom to watch Rithi perform his dance recital. 2 hours earlier, I saw him exit his room dressed for the recital. He was done up on a traditional Indian do. He was wearing a purple Banarasi sari, with his hair done up in a big chignon. He was wearing around 10 bangles in each hand. His face was done up in heavy makeup and he wore large dangling earrings. While I had gotten used to seeing him in women's wear, seeing him as a traditional Indian girl was something. Mom wanted us to pose while she took pictures. I noticed Rithi stand with one leg in front of the other and posed like a girl. She hugged me while I wished her the very best. All his ornaments made the most feminine sounds while he walked. I was very tough to think of him as my brother. At the concert, Rithi danced with a group of girls and enacted a play-doh dance. She was really graceful and good at it. I was so proud. Mom and I clapped happily as they came out at the end of the dance. As we went backstage to meet Rithi, she came and hugged us. Was I good? She asked, knowing the answer. You were the best of the lot, we told her. As we returned home, Rithi, Mom and I sat in Rithi's room helping her remove the million hair clips in her hair and undoing her chignon and removed her heavy makeup. Rithi and I chatted happily about the dance performance. Even without her makeup, Rithi made a very pretty girl. An younger version of our mother. Her small nose, small chin, flawless complexion and large eyes made her look like a model at times only if she was taller. Her hair was thick and was quite long. I left the room while she changed out of her heavy sari and met them downstairs for dinner. It seemed Mom had done her hair up in a high ponytail with a baby pink scrunchie. Revi was wearing capris and long loose top. I was not sure if I would get my brother back in the future. This chapter is told from the perspective of Rahul's mother. I couldn't sleep well that night. I kept thinking about the last couple of years, and perhaps in my attempt to overcompensate for lack of discipline in the past, I had pushed Rahul towards a choice that was not entirely his. Maybe it was too soon to tell. Maybe tomorrow morning, Rahul would go for a haircut and all would be back to what it was before, except for the negative aspects of his life. It was time to have the talk in any case. It was the weekend, so that gave us enough time together. I met the kids for breakfast the next morning. Rohan, with his hair disheveled, yawning away. Rahul had pulled his hair back and twisted it up with the help of a dark brown translucent jaw grip. We ate breakfast mostly in silence. I thought it best to talk. Revi, we need to get you involved into the workings of our company. I think you should start coming to office with me from now on, while you prepare for college. We can also discuss the career path and which business school you want to choose, I said as professionally as a breakfast discussion would allow. Rahul was silent for a few seconds and then spoke slowly. Mom, Rohan, I want to discuss something with you. Over the last year or so, my life has changed a lot. One thing I have discovered about myself is that I love to dance. I know I am better at it than anything I have tried my hands on till now. I think it is something I want to take up more seriously, maybe even professionally later. I am not sure about taking up a role in the company. I think Rohan would be best placed for that. I was stunned. Rohan just stared. My mind started working the way it usually does when faced with a difficult client, and I blurted out the best alternative that I could think of. I am surprised to hear you say that. I think it's too early for us to decide. I would suggest that you carry on dancing, but at the same time, you prepare for your examinations and college. Get a college education, get a degree from business school. That will give you options in life. For the time being, why don't you come to office with me a few days a week and learn the business, prepare for examinations in college, and also carry on with your dance classes? The logic appealed to Rahul. Thanks, Mom. I think that's a great idea. I think this is something I should do, he smiled and said. Revi Didi, will you remain as Revi till the time you decide? Asked Rohan, his eyes still wide. For the time being, yes. Since I know only the female dance form of Bharatanatyam, I think it would make sense for now. Also, can you imagine chopping off my hair suddenly? He giggled and said. Revi, if you stay this way, how would you come to office? I asked with concern. I don't know. Maybe I will come in dressed as Revi to office. I don't think your colleagues know me, Revi said with a sense of assurance. That's true. I don't think they know I have 2 sons or 1 son and 1 daughter. I think it can be worked out, I said with a smile. Rohan smiled too. I was not sure what Rohan was thinking behind his smile. I certainly didn't know what I was thinking. Noticing Revi walk and talk with a limp wrist and a wiggle in his back did nothing to convince me that maybe I was right in my original decision to punish him. It was arranged then. Rahul would prepare for the examinations during the week. Twice a week, he would come into office and learn about the business from me. He would also go for his dance classes an hour a day 3 times a week. The first day that I expected him to join me in office, I told him to dress appropriately for work and get there by 10 in the morning. I had to leave early, so I did meet him. Around 10, my secretary called me and said my daughter was here to meet me. Revi came in a few seconds later. She was wearing a dark gray pencil skirt and an ivory-colored blouse with 3/4 sleeves and a boat neck. She had done her hair high ponytail and had created a bump in the front of her head with the help of 2 hair clips. I have no clue how she learned to do her hair so well. She had lined her eyes with dark liner and I could see a trace of pink lip color. She was wearing pearl drop earrings, a tennis bracelet in one wrist and a thin lady's watch in the other. She was wearing black pumps with a 2-inch heel. She carried a mauve Michael Kors tote bag. She would not have looked more appropriately dressed for office. And she looked beautiful. Revi, you look gorgeous. I see that you have gone shopping. I jokingly admonished. Hee hee. Thanks, Mom. Yes, I did. Do you like the ensemble? I have bought a bunch of office wear. Did not want to let the boss down, she smiled with a twinkle in her eye. It's to be seen if you can learn the business as well as you dress, I said with a straight face. Suddenly I noticed you have curves at your hips, I said with a surprise. Well, yes. I couldn't carry off this skirt with my hips. So I bought some padded wear. It's available, you know. Revi looked away while she answered. I didn't probe. This chapter is being told from the perspective of Rahul's brother, Rohan. I don't know what Revi was thinking. He would continue to dress as a girl? While I was used to seeing him this way by now, I needed to understand his mindset. Was he gay? Was he enjoying wearing women's wear? Did he feel like a woman from within? I did not want to unleash all the questions at one go. I could see Revi happier now than he has been over the last few years. I didn't want to break the flow. Almost 6 months had passed since Revi had made her decision over breakfast. It was common for me to see Revi dressed in her salwar kameezes, with her hair made up in either in a tight simple chignon or a single braid and leaving for her dance classes. Or wearing formal wear or a more formal salwar suit and going to office with Mom. We spent less time as siblings these days, with Revi being busy with many things. Without the knowledge or my mother and sister, did I just refer to Rahul as my sister? I had started dating Naina, a lovely girl I had met through some common friends. Naina took up a look of my spare time, as you can imagine. While as brothers, we usually didn't knock on each other's doors before entering. Lately, I had made a conscious effort to develop the habit before entering Revi's room. However, one day, I forgot the new rule and entered. Revi gasped and tried to cover herself. She was just wearing her panties, and before she could cover her chest with the towel, I definitely saw a pair of small but certainly visible breasts. Revi! What on earth? I was shaking in shock. Revi was at a loss of words, but she knew I had seen them. Shut the door and come inside, she said softly. I did just that. She wore her pink bathrobe and sat down on the bed. I went and stood in front of her, my face demanding an explanation. Revi was crying softly. I did not know how to react and said stupidly, "You have breasts." My girlfriend has breasts. You are not a girl. How do you have breasts? Revi gave me a look that I have carried with me till date. It was a look of hurt like I have never seen before. I didn't care. I wanted to know what was going on. I realized that while my face was beautiful, my body didn't have the curves to make the clothes I was wearing all the time. I also was having trouble with explaining that to my friends at dance school. Around 6 months back, I went online and bought estrogen tablets that were available for postmenopausal women. This is the effect in 6 months' time, Revi said, sobbing. I went and hugged her. I did not know what to say and didn't want to risk saying anything hurtful. Rohan, I don't know what I am doing and where I am going with my life. I know that the effects of this medicines are reversible once I stop taking them. I will know what I want to do before I go to college. Will you support me? She asked tearfully. Rivi, I love you as my sister and mom and I will be with you no matter what you decide. She couldn't stop crying for a good 10 minutes after that and I hugged her through that. Wait, did you say you have a girlfriend? She asked between her sobs. I smiled yes, her name is Nina. She is a wonderful girl. Do you want to meet her? Rohan, if I meet her now, she will know you have a sister. Once day if you marry her and I have decided to carry on with life as Rahul at that point, she will be so confused, Rithi said with a giggle. I burst out laughing. You are so cute and stupid and funny. We both laughed. Sure. I would love to meet her, Rithi decided. Rithi, Nina and I decided to meet for lunch at a restaurant the next weekend. Nina and I were waiting for Rithi to join us. Rithi walked in looking radiant. Her hair was parted in the middle like it usually was, but it was now cut in layers. It looked so big as she had left it open. I didn't realize how long her hair had grown. She was wearing a white peplum dress and was carrying a light pink sling bag. She was wearing light makeup and walked in while the men in the restaurant stared. Rivi and Nina hugged like girls do and Rivi, the charmer said, Brother, Nina is so beautiful. How did you convince her to go out with you? Nina giggled and said, Thanks Rivi. But Rohan never told me that his sister is so beautiful. You are just gorgeous. Hee hee. That is because I just got my hair and brows done at a salon. Otherwise I look like an ogre, Rithi smiled and said. Nina was loving my sister, I could tell. The lunch was fun for the girls but not me. After a few laughs, the girls ignored me and started with chats about makeup and clothes and bags and shoes. I saw Rithi pull the sides of her hair back and clip it back with her jaw clip. I saw Nina do the same. Girls! Rohan, my brother just messaged and he is nearby. Should I ask him to join us? Nina asked, interrupting my semi-slumber. Sure. More than happy to have another guy here. You girls are ignoring me. You know, boys can learn about makeup and clothes and bags too, Rithi said with a wink. Sure they can. Can you please call your brother over quickly? I responded. Rithi reminiscing about the last 2 years, tying up the open ends as I sat for my haircut, I did not know to what extent my life was about to change. Rose, my mom's salon lady, who often came home to do my mom's hair, nails, waxing and facials, was going to give me a haircut. Since I had not had a haircut for the last year and more, I did not mind, and since I was not allowed to leave the house for the time being, this was a good opportunity to clean up a bit. Only when the haircut was done, I realized the damage it had caused. Not only was I left with a very feminine bottom of my neck-length bob, I was looking scarily pretty. Rose said I looked like Amrita Rao, not that I had ever seen her in a bob in any of her films, and Mom put her hand to her mouth trying to cover a giggle. First I was furious, but the anger eventually converted to a terror when I was alone in my room. The biggest shame was in facing Rohan, my younger brother, who initially couldn't control his laughter but eventually got over it. Of course the following year, when I didn't clear my exams once again, which was basically due to a complete lack of effort, Mom enrolled me in a Bharatanatyam class, which I was to attend in Fem. This was preceded by a complete makeover. Rose had come over once again to cut my hair, which was cut in a longing layer in front, very Rachel from Friends, and do my eyebrows. All I could do was shed a tear while Rose lay into my brows. My first day of baratnadium class was terrifying. I pleaded with Mom to not do this to me, but it was too late. As she made me wear a yellow and white patiala suit and put up my hair in a high pony, the rules of the dance school was that I couldn't leave my hair open. My heart was beating at a terrifying pace. My anklet and silver bracelet didn't help my case, and neither did the light makeup. As I exited my room with Mom, I was praying that I didn't meet Rohan. However, he was there to look at me at my worst. I tried his best to stifle a giggle, but he failed miserably. Rahul Bia looks like this actress from the movie Main Hu Na, I heard him telling Mom. Yes, Amrita Rao. And she is Riddhi Didi to you. Don't forget, Mom replied. The dance instructor had introduced me to the class as Riddhi. I was much older than most of the girls in the class. Most of them were in their pre-teen, whereas I was over 17. What was worrisome for me and Mom was that puberty seemed to have skipped my room and had straight gone for Rohan's room. I still had my high-pitched voice, soft features and hairless skin, which allowed the girls to welcome me as one of their own. Dance was difficult to begin with. It required a lot of strength in my legs and lower body. Over time I became good at it. I enjoyed the time I spent there since it was the only time for me outside home. The other girls and I used to have ice cream every once in a while outside the school gate from the ice cream parlor, which we cherished, since it was the only outside company I had. Riddhi Didi, you look so similar to Amrita Rao, one of the girls had smiled and said once. I had smiled back and replied, "Ah, thanks sweetie. I have been told that before." The present day from Riddhi's perspective. As we waited for Naina's brother to come by, I noticed my brother putting his arms over the Naina's shoulder. "Aw, that's sweet," I thought. One day, maybe I will have my own girlfriend. Or boyfriend. I wasn't sure anymore about anything. Naina's brother walked in after a while. He was Rohan's height, tall but slender. He looked cute. God! I needed to stop hanging out so much with girls. My mindset was being altered. "Hi, I am Arjun, Naina's brother," he smiled at me and said. "Hi Arjun, I am Riddhi, Rohan's sister." He seemed pleasant. Soon we were all talking animatedly about the latest shows, movies and music. You know, considering we live in Mumbai, you would think we would meet more movie stars, Naina quipped. Till then, we have to make good with an Amrita Rao lookalike, Arjun replied, looking at me. I caught myself blushing and Rohan was a bit flabbergasted. His brother was being hit on by his girlfriend's brother. Naina giggled and said, "Oh yeah. I was trying to place the movie star you reminded me of." Now that Arjun mentions it, Riddhi, you totally look like Amrita Rao. Especially her eyes and smile. Thanks sweetie, I responded shyly, suddenly very conscious. Also her petite frame, said Arjun smiling. Oh, that charmer. I couldn't help blushing and flirt punching him. Naina giggled and said, Arjun. Stop it. You are flirting with Riddhi in front of her brother. What is happening? What are you doing? Rohan messaged me on WhatsApp. I didn't know. I was having a great time. Riddhi reminiscing again. I remember the boy in Goa taking me out of the party after a few drinks. I was quite buzzed, but when we sat on the park bench outside the hotel, I caught myself resting my head on his shoulders. I had tried to keep my legs together in the most ladylike way possible, but before I could get things in order, I felt lips on my lips. It felt nice and I reciprocated. His tongue entered my mouth and I welcomed it. I wasn't thinking, and by the time I did, it was too late. Mom had seen it and my self-esteem was shattered. I had begged Mom to drive us back to Mumbai the next day and she agreed. I dressed as conservatively as possible. Thankfully, I was carrying a light pink salwar with white and silver work, which I teamed by braiding my hair. I covered my head with the baby pink dupatta and shielded my eyes with sunglasses. I couldn't let anyone see my eyes that day. The following week was the dance recital and I had asked for Mom's help to dress me up. I was so conflicted, but I knew I wanted to dance at the recital. She seemed delighted to do so. I had a customized light purple blouse and a purple sari of the same hue. Mom told me to wear the padded bra, the petticoat and the blouse before she came in. While I struggled with the blouse, I kept staring at the mirror. I did look scarily like Amrita Rao. And she was beautiful. And so was I. This sudden realization injected me with a sense of confidence that I thought I had lost forever. Once Mom came in, her task was to tame my super thick below shoulder length hair and build it into a simple Indian chignon. I sat at the dresser as she combed my hair, telling me about her day. I couldn't concentrate, thinking only of my recital. By the time I had regained my attention, I saw my hair done in a middle parting in front and tight simple chignon at the back of my head. I felt 100 hair clip digging into my scalp and tugging at my hair. I was a feminizing feeling and an empowering one. Mom then did my makeup. Overdose of black liner, scarlet lipstick, pink blush and eyeshadow, all over the canvas of primer and foundation. I looked beautiful. Once she made my wear the sari and clipped it nicely, I was staring at myself in shock. I was a gorgeous. I shyly left my room with Mom and she called out to Rohan. I had clasped my hands together in front of Mai and looked at him half in shame, half expecting a compliment. His mouth was open. Rivi Didi, he had said, you are so beautiful. It took a bit of an effort not to cry. The present day, from Rivi's perspective, the lunch with Naina and Arjun ended in Rohan and I rode home in silence. Rivi, I need to speak to you once we get home, Rohan said. I knew what he wanted to speak about, but I wasn't in the mood. Rohan, let's talk tomorrow. Today I need to go for my dance practice and then study as well, I responded. He didn't push. However, it was another case with Mom. Rivi, I want to speak to you, she had messaged me. I knew once she was home, things would be serious. I sat in at my dresser wearing my cute new PJs and trying to fishtail braid my hair. Mom walked in. She saw me in my ultra-feminine moment and shut the door. Rivi, we need to talk. I found these in your room, she said, holding up the estrogen tablets. I wasn't quite prepared for that and started foolishly at her. You need to speak to me. What is this you are doing? And do you know how dangerous this is? She nearly screamed. I stood up tall and said, Mom, you made Rose cute my hair in a girl's hairdo. You went and bought me women's wear. You forced me to join Bharatanatyam. What is my decision in all this? I said quietly. That doesn't answer my question. Mom bellowed. Yes, it does. You decided my fate and this is it. I retorted. Mom sat down on the bed staring at me. I turned away from her, went to my dresser, picked up my new nail paint and started applying them. Rivi, what do you want? Do you want to live as a woman? If so, then let us go to a doctor and get the proper medicines. If not, stop this at once. Mom was on the verge of tears. Now was the time to scream, Mom, you did this to me. I didn't ask for it. I don't know what I am now and what path I am taking. I am happy today being Revi and don't force your decision on people like you do in your boardroom. Epilogue. Rohan had been introduced to the company's inner workings. While Mom retained control, Rohan was next in line. I sat in the parlor getting my hair, skin and makeup done for my wedding. As I sat in my pink and silver lehenga, I saw Rose do my hair in a big elaborate chignon befitting a bride. Of course, I had to grow my hair till the small of my back to get that chignon right. Rose put the long gold hair ornament on the middle parting of my hair and fixed it down with a hair clip. She made my face up in different tones of pink. That was my favorite color. She encircled my hair bun with pink flowers. I wore the long gold jhumkas myself and the gold bangles. As she covered my head with the gungat and attached clips to it to prevent it from falling off, I thought of the fateful day that I had met Arjun. I stood up once Rose was done, lifted the lehenga with the tip of my fingers and walked to the car to take me to the wedding venue. Mom was not wrong in her decision, she just chose for me. It was a right choice. I wasn't meant for business, I was meant to be homemaker, caring for my husband, looking pretty and being a professional danseuse. As I walked into the wedding venue, I heard audible gasps from guests. I heard someone say, "She is so beautiful. Doesn't she look so much like Amrita Rao?" I knew that. And Arjun was a lucky man.